Hello! This is the first day of NaNoWriMo. I am Martin, and with me is the wonderful Shannon, SD Huston.
Hello.
And let's have a logo. There we go. How are you with your Nano? Have you got much planned? Or are you doing it on the fly?
I am doing it on the fly. Oh, hold on. Sorry, rookie move. I went to the video so I could grab the chat and forgot to mute it. So I'm kind of doing it on the fly. I mean, I'm working on a project, which is my first book. And I've written the first draft was 40,000 words, mostly dialogue. So I went back through, started the second draft. And I think I was going to actually open it and see how far I got. But the draft is pretty like, okay, I need to stop and take a step back because I'm missing things that I wanted to make. So the second draft is 47,628 words, but I'm stepping back and I'm going back to my outline, which I don't really like do as like a huge outline. It's kind of little, but I'm gonna go back through and check the points that I know I missed and kind of rewrite what I want to do. And then I'm hoping by the end of the week, I'll actually start writing on the book again, but I'm going to be spending probably this first week planning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to, once you've got that, then you can just be away, hopefully. I am working on an urban fantasy called Prophecy Dawn, which is about your typical 16-year-old chosen one in her late 30s when no one believes her anymore, which is very exciting after writing a lot of things on spaceships.
Yes, totally different. What made you want to choose a female protagonist?
It's just sort of came at me fully formed, to be honest. But then I think often in the genre, they tend to be female. Also Buffy. It's basically Buffy fanfic. I can't really cover that up.
It's like Buffy when she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
I really like that idea, though. I mean, your seed there of what happens when no one believes her and it's in her 30s. I'm like, that's different, but still it's following a trope that is recognized as far as like the chosen one, but twisting it. So I think it's a good idea.
Well, I think most people, even if they are quite successful, often, have the things they wish had gone differently in their lives. And I think they can relate to a character who's feeling like, they've gone down the wrong path and trying to put that right.
So she's gone down the wrong path after like finding out she's a chosen one?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So very interesting character.
She did something in her teens that was catastrophic, but for the greater good. And it basically meant that she blew up her school. We say that quite early on. But the reasons why were noble. But it wasn't something that they could actually admit to.
Were there people inside the school when she blew it up?
Oh, no. But it's still frowned upon.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I get that. But that kind of has like the like superhero vibe, because superheroes, when they fight, they're always blowing things up. And you're like, what's the consequences? They never say.
Mm-hmm. And basically, since then, she defeated the baddie of the time, and in doing so, all the other sort of your typical urban fantasy monsters have all sort of gone away, and suddenly they're starting to come back, and she has to find out why.
So
and she's contacted by a teenager who is the daughter of one of her best friends from school.
So is being urban fantasy, does it have vampires, werewolves, like those typical things you find in a lot of urban fantasy, or are you shying away from that?
Yeah, all of that pretty much.
Okay.
I've actually got one scene, which I might be getting to today, which I was writing it and I was just like, would this work if it was a Frankenstein's monster?
Ooh, that's an interesting idea.
And I was like, that could work. That could be a bit funnier than I was going for. So I'm going to sort of have a play about with that and see how it goes.
Just had a crazy thought. What if you had a Frankenstein monster? And not that you have to do this, but Frankenstein monster mixed with a vampire.
Could do.
That just hit my head. I was like, that'd be interesting.
But the idea of like bringing the dead back to life is sort of a recurring theme, so it works quite nicely as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's your project?
Well, I'm working on I feel like I'm really high. Like if you look at me to you, you're like low on the screen and I'm really like really high. And I keep like, let me get down here a little bit. There we go. I just brought myself down. So I am working on my series that I'm hoping to launch next year, which is a romantic fantasy. And I can't remember, I was explaining it to someone and they said it was not urban fantasy, but there's another label given to it. Urban fantasy.
You never get things about like modern settings where it's just like vampires and werewolves on a farm, like rural fantasy.
No, you don't. But mine is in an older setting, and it's a secondary Earth, which just means that it's an Earth-like planet, but it's not our Earth. So,
and it's roughly, on their shoulder?
Huh?
Do they have a chip on their shoulder about it?
No. So secondary Earth is just more of a term for the writer, not the characters. But I liken it to like 1100 time period because I have the invention of gunpowder where it's black powder. And I even include like some things like the Chinese were the first to figure out the third component of black powder. And they, at the time, it was sulfur, right? They only could find it in this one cave that was in China. Now we know how to synthesize it. But sulfur comes from bat guano, basically. And so when the Chinese found it, they had a monopoly on sulfur. And so it came to be known as Chinese snow during that time period. So I kind of took that from my world, but it's the dwarves who found it, and it's dwarven snow. But it takes place on a continent that is ruled by ice dragons. So of course, fire and ice don't coexist very well. So there's that overarching idea of conflict of this fire and ice, and but it's a romance fantasy. So there's 4 books and 4 brothers who were cursed, and they're the ice dragons. They can shift. And one brother decides he doesn't want to have anything to do with the curse, and it changes him. And they went to different corners of the land because they couldn't. The longer they stayed together, the more everything iced over, and it was like an ice age, and it nearly killed the human population. So they had to split up. So the first 3 books are non-linear, which means they all happen at the same time. It's each brother finding his love, basically his love story, and then the 4th book will be the 4th brother who, didn't want anything to do with it, and he's not even human anymore, so they have to go deal with him.
As one does.
Yeah.
So do you do that kind of historical research and then go, oh, I've got a story idea, or do you go, here's an idea, what can back that up?
I had for this one, I've gone back and forth, different stories. So in this one, I just had my idea was, I love dragons. I realized I really, really, really love dragons. So in my trilogy, my Irish trilogy, dragons were pretty much gone from the myths during 3rd century Ireland, which is when this happens, except for one that was still around, Pashta, and St. Patrick banished him and killed him in the 4th century. And I was like, there's no dragons, and there aren't any like really in-depth stories about dragons, but I so wanted a dragon in my story that I put him in there. So I used Pashta in my story. And I realized, you know what, I just really like dragons.
I'm trying to think when St. George was.
St. George? I don't think I read about him when I did my research.
He is the patron saint of England, and he banished a dragon.
Okay, so yeah, there are Celtic myths in England, and so but I only concentrate on the Irish ones.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily have a correlation all the time.
We have St. George's Day, where we're put on novelty top hats, and then we'll binge drink tea and listen to like Jerusalem over and over.
Well, I think St. Patrick was English. He came from the UK, I believe. But the Irish, they venerate him.
I think historically St. George would have been Syrian, which doesn't get mentioned much by the areas of the press who go on about national days, but there we are.
And he's like, some people binge drink liquids other than tea. Yes, my coffee's my second cup. I'll probably go get another one before the stream is over. I have a very long day ahead of me, so we got this. And then I have the self-publishing tips and tricks podcast video coming out today because it's the first. And after that's done, I have to hurry up and go get my son from school, take him to therapy, get back in time. Oh, no, that's at 4. So then my stream starts at 4. So I actually have time because I usually get back right before 3. And then I have my first stream.
Question for Easy Graphics. As an expat, do you find yourself doubling down on the patriotism or turning it off completely? Because when I lived on overseas, I did have some days where you just sort of feel, particularly patriotic for no good reason, just because it's not readily available. But weird things happen when you're a long way from home.
Yeah. I've never been one to get really excited about holidays or anything like that anyway, so it probably wouldn't affect me in any way.
But it does weird things. I was in France for a year, which right at the far end, it took about 11, 15 hours to go door to door to where I am now. So there were days where it felt pretty remote. Don't get me wrong, it was awesome, but it does weird stuff to your brain.
Trying to think, because I was deployed, and we deployed right after Christmas, but we weren't allowed to go home to see our families. And I was living in Washington State, and all my family was on the East Coast, so we weren't allowed to go see family because we were getting ready to leave. And we deployed in January, and then came back the next January. I don't even think we did anything for Christmas. I cannot actually remember.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking it was 2 years in a row that I didn't celebrate Christmas.
Easy Graphics has his cuppa every day.
Depends on the mood of the day, who's on the telly, politics, and how it looks abroad. As an introvert, I keep my thoughts to myself most of the time. I feel you. I listened to the I Wish I Knew Then, I think it's what the podcast is called. They had one come out last night, so I listened to it this morning. And the author that they interviewed has a pen name. She won't give her real name, and she's terribly introverted. And they met her at a conference, but she wears like wigs and stuff like that so that she is completely hidden. And she says that that's the only way she gets through to going to conferences and things, so that she's playing a character. So I think that was interesting.
Yeah, I can understand that. But on the other hand, it has occurred to me that probably 2/3 of the people I interact with on AuthorTube don't actually tell me their real names, which sometimes you realize that and you're just like, you've lied to me.
Well, my real first name is Shannon, but SD Huston is not my name, which I've had people on and off YouTube call me Shannon Houston, and I'm like, that's not my name. They're like, oh, the S, I just thought that was Shannon. I was like, that's a pen name.
I do go by Bradley Lejeune on TikTok, and occasionally people will call me Bradley, and I'm just like, and then just move on.
It'll happen. But yeah, I don't give out my full name in most cases if I can help it, because I have had my identity stolen twice.
Yeah, it's smart. It's a weird sort of middle ground we're walking in this future dystopian we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and the law can't catch up with it. So
no.
Are you ready for a sprint then?
Oh, yes, let's do this.
Okay.
Right. There we go.
Mine.
Yeah, it's good, this one.
Yeah, I like it.
Sorry, I'm terrible at StreamYards.
So if you hit on the screen, right? If you go to the far bottom right corner, if you click that, that will take up the full screen. It's like the square that's like, oh, no. No, on the actual video, on the tab. Yes.
There we go.
Oh, yes. And there you go. Takes up the whole screen. Lovely.
This is what our viewers have come to expect, hooray.
Did you see? You didn't see my Friday stream, right? So I have my cell phone open so I can see the timer and people commenting while I'm working on the computer. And I started the stream and my phone, I didn't know my volume was up. And so it starts repeating what I was saying. So I was like, hold on, put everything mute, turned it down, turned it back on. And my phone started talking again. And I was like, I thought I did this. I was so embarrassed for like the first 15 minutes of my stream.
I'm sorry, one moment.
Uh-oh.
So I'm just trying to figure everything out. I put my work behind the bloody timer. Sorry. Right, enough of this nonsense. Let's write some words.
Alrighty.
Okay. That is our first sprint. How did you do?
Pretty good. I'm happy with where I got. I reviewed my first 8 scenes and I like them. So I'm moving on to the next set.
I got 771 words.
Wow, nice. Did you dictate those?
I did, yeah. Was usually if I'm dictating, I'll get a bit quicker, but I had the timer right in front of me and I was watching the text appear, which I try not to do, as it, you tend to focus on it rather than on the words.
Yeah.
But I filled one of my screens with a timer. But yeah, I can't complain.
No, that's really good word count. Very productive.
Yeah, and we have got some people joining us in the chat whilst we've been writing.
Yeah.
We have got Victoria Wren here, the writer of the brilliant Wild Spirit books, which are, I think they're YA urban fantasy, which, well worth checking out.
Oh, did I mention I'm here with one of my current favorite authors?
Oh.
Someone asked me the other day who are my favorite authors. Oh yeah, there was someone that I was matched up with through a group I'm part of. I was matched up with him to do cross promotions, but then he explained like what he writes. And I'm like, fantasy is kind of like a broad, like umbrella term, and our genres were far different from each other. It was fantasy, but he asked me who were my favorite authors. I'm like, I think my favorite authors are whoever I'm reading at the time.
Yeah, I tend to big fan of James S.A. Corey, John Scalzi, that kind of sci-fi stuff. But you do tend to focus on whatever you're reading, unless, of course, it's Nightmare Tenant.
Oh no, Richard Holiday, you've been called out. Are you going to show up?
No, we're streaming when he's not available to
Yeah.
get the last word in. It had to happen once.
Barrett also showed up too.
Mm-hmm.
And Willie Wilson, writer in Brazil. That's a new name for me. Is that someone that you know?
No, I'm guessing that's someone who's visited us from the spreadsheet.
Could be, yeah. Or someone who's looking for nano sprints.
Or that, yeah. That's the great thing about Nano is...
meet a whole bunch of new people.
Yeah, it's such a great community. It's... there is a brilliant podcast called I Should Be Writing by Mer Lafferty, and I started listening to that long ago when the Earth was young, and she mentioned NaNoWriMo in 2008, and I looked it up, and even in the backwater city I was living in, there were people meeting up, and I went along to a write-in at the library and just was like, oh, hello, who are you? What are you writing? And I was just like, it's a writing, what are you doing? I'm like, okay.
Okay.
I've managed to get 25,000 words in 2 weeks with no plan and immediately burnt out.
Oh. When we lived in Hawaii, I joined a group that's actually worldwide, but people have to be leaders who want to do it in that area. And so we had a girl in our area. It's called Shut Up and Write. And the idea is you show up all together in one place, whatever the place is where the leader wants to go, and you just sit down and you write. There's not really any talking, but she always had it afterward. There was a social part, and you could leave if you wanted to, but yeah. So yeah, we didn't start with the talking. We just sat down and wrote.
It's I don't know. There are some happening near me this year. I don't know if I'll go along to them or not. It's much more convenient to do it from home and just dial people in. Yeah.
So Willie said that they found us through looking for nano sprints.
Welcome. We are so happy to have you. And we've also got Bethany Votar here.
She just showed up, yeah. And she knows Shut Up and Write. She knows the group. It's worldwide. You can apply to be a leader. Because I remember I asked the girl who put together Hawaii, And when I came here, where I live now, there's no Shut Up and Write group here. So I was like, oh, I could do this. I'm like, yeah, I don't have time.
Yeah, it's so great just to have a writing community and just everyone being at the same stage. And yeah, it's like usually it's fine, but there's someone there who's just like, oh yeah, I'm outlining, someone else who's editing, and just everyone just being, in a scrabble to get as many words down. It's just, you don't get that often as a writer. You're mainly just lonely and sad.
Bethany, do you have a Shut Up and Write group where you're at? I've seen on Facebook in my area where people have tried it, like, hey, let's do a writing group, and like nobody ever joins. I always said, yeah, I'm game, and then but no one else says anything, so that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that sprint, I fell into my old trap of just having people talk at each other. It's my old screenwriting kicking in.
The dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I fast draft, I tend to do a lot of dialogue, and then later on I have to add, layer in the beats, the setting, description, character, all that stuff.
Yeah, I know Malcolm sometimes will write a screenplay for a first draft.
And you have a background in screenplay, or is that Malcolm who has a background?
Well, I did short films and then got into VFX and did that as a career for a bit.
That's so cool.
And
I know you did the visual effects, but I didn't remember about the screenplay.
I always felt comfortable because, most people wouldn't actually read the script. So you could write something that people would see, but without having to craft beautiful prose. I always had because I was never any good at spelling or anything like that when I was really young. So whenever I did show anyone anything, they'd always go, oh, the spelling's a bit off, even when you ran it by like 3 people to go over it. So absolutely petrified when I put a book out. It would just be like, oh no, there's typos in this. Before realizing you can just pay people to take those out.
Yeah, and you can go back and fix it. I did find one chapter in the first half that had like 2 or 3 typos in it, where all the other chapters were clean.
Which is infuriating when you've paid someone to fix those.
But we're all human, so. Because I had the same thing. I had 2 or 3 readers reach out to me, tell me about typos in my first book, Blood of Lily. And I'm like, I paid an editor, a few $100s for it. But, at first I wanted to be, a little bit upset. But I thought, you know what? They're human. They just do the best that they can. So.
But yes, I will be going back through that and fixing those. If you have specific notes, I will.
Yeah, I do. I have the notes. You want me to send it to you through IG?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay.
And that is how wonderful I am at proofreading. Wonderful.
Well, too, we get used to our own writing. So once you've read something over and over and over again, it's hard to see those mistakes in there.
Yeah.
So, Bethany did say that she lives in a dense area, so there's quite a few Shut Up and Write groups. And then she's actually part of a writer guild as well. And might do a video, so that would be interesting. I would love to see that. And Victoria says she's never heard of the group, but check it out. But we'll check it out. Yeah, I wish we had one in our area.
I think I'm going for lunch with Victoria this month. That's very exciting.
Oh yeah, are you going to do like a video?
Probably, yeah. I think Richard and Chris Kenny are gonna be there as well.
Nice. Okay, so. Chris lives in the UK with.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's near London as well.
Oh, that's right. They just came to the US to get married and then went back to the UK. Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's valid outside the US.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and you know what? It's funny that you say that because you brought that up as a kind of a thing in your book.
Yes.
Where the main character was married, and she said, well, that was before the war, so it's not valid. We were never actually married.
I think that was actually came from me and Malcolm sort of disagreeing on how married they should be, on whether they were engaged and it never happened, or if they were divorced. And I'm just like, have them get married, have it be, have her view it as not valid, and have him view it as very valid, and then everyone wins.
Yeah, I really like how that was used in the book. It just added a layer of layer of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it added more layers to the story.
Yeah, it's it was.
Oh, sorry. Bethany's like, I'm jealous. I want to meet up. Me too. But I live like far away from everybody.
We'll just have to dig a tunnel.
Yeah. I think the closest person to me is Heather Dewey Pettit, and she's like 7 hours away.
Blimey.
Yes. I want to go to UK too one day.
It's dark and wet.
Yeah, so I've heard. But still, I like seeing different places of the world.
But come, they'll probably make you prime minister.
I live in the panhandle of Florida. So, yeah. I'm like less than an hour from the Alabama border.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's less than an hour. Not even, it couldn't be an hour because I can make it to Mobile in 1 hour, which is further north. So I must be within like 20 minutes or something of the border. I don't remember now.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that in mind, shall we go for another sprint?
Let's do it.
He said, not having the timer lined up.
Bethany says, I grew up in Oregon, so I'm used to dark and rainy. I grew up mostly in Miami, which was pretty sunny, but it does not work well when you're pale. And I don't tan.
I just got a message. Apparently my ISP was doing something to my router. Good thing I didn't go down.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. And time's up.
Yay.
How was that for you?
It was good. I only got through 2 scenes that time, but the second scene I was reading all the way through to remind myself of everything that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But of course, then I felt myself editing. I started editing my words. I'm like, you're just supposed to be reviewing, not editing.
Editing's for December. Easy Graphics is back just in time for the chat.
How'd you do?
I got another 760 words, which puts me on 3,999 for the day.
Nice.
My goal for today is 5,000. 4,000 is the most I've ever written in a single day. So with 2 more words, and I will beat that.
Yeah. So if you've only ever written 4,000 words in a single day, what made you choose a 5,000 word count goal?
Margaret Pinard told me to.
Okay.
We were on your stream on, I think it was Friday, and I was saying I've got these days off, and what would be a target which would be realistic but also push me. And she suggested that was a good one to aim for. So I've never done, like, I'd love to have done a 10K day, but
Andy's like, oh, I love that. What made you do X? Margaret Pinard beat me. So, and Andy says he's always amazed at how many words we get. But like what I do when I get a lot of words, Martin also does, which is dictating. So it's easy to get a lot of words that way, especially if you know what you're going to write. It's easier.
Yeah. I've got, like, I think we've talked before about Monica Leonelli has a book called Write Fast, Write Better, and Chris Fox talks about this as well, of tracking when you write, what you write, how you write, and getting that data down. And that's something that I've been doing for years now.
Cool.
So I know on average how many words I get down. If I sprint for a certain amount of time, I should have that many words, and I can then plan accordingly.
Yeah, that's smart. Very smart. I think for me, because we have talked about it, and I've kind of read the same thing, tracking it. But my time, it's so weird because I don't have another job. You have a job. So it's like so mind baffling how you do this when I don't have another job. Although I do have a kiddo, which takes a lot of time.
They get a lot of issues if you start referring to them as a job, though.
Yeah.
Which is a bit unfair because they're a lot of work.
Well, yeah. And then, my kiddo is autistic. So he goes to therapy every day. And twice a week, I have to go get him from school because he's in choir practice after school. The other days he's brought to the house, and the therapist comes to the house, which is nice because that gives me a little more time to write. But my time is always so different that I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. But my biggest day, and I dictated all of it, was the first day of the Worldwide Write-a-thon back in June, and I wrote just over 18,000 words.
That is insane.
Yeah. But I knew that was my first draft, which was like mostly dialogue. I knew what was going to happen. I knew the whole story. I vomited on the page.
Tomorrow I'm doing a stream with Anna Sophie, who's a German writer, and she'll quite often do 10K streams.
Yeah,
which is just, wow. I'd love to have done it. I don't know how much I'd enjoy it at the time.
Yeah, and I saw some writer, I don't remember who it was now, that they said, yeah, I could do a 10K day, but I'll be paying for it the next couple of days.
Yeah. And it's like I considered it, but then I realized, if it backfires, then that's going to put me in a really bad position, even if it's a strong start.
Yeah.
And it's like, I worry even with 5K that I might wake up tomorrow with no voice.
Yeah, especially since we dictate.
Yes.
The next day for me was really hard after the 18K day. I did get to like 4,500 the next day. That was the second day of Worldwide Write-a-thon. But yeah, it was hard speaking.
But yeah, so far so good. I think I'll get this down, and then I will just be able to coast for the rest of the month. It's like you do see some writers who will just every day be doing 5,000 words and put out a novel every couple of months, which is absolutely crazy. But then you get other people who are like, yeah, I went full time and I didn't get any more words down.
Yeah, I am definitely not one of those people who could put out a book like every other month or every few months, because it takes me forever to revise and edit once I have it done.
Yeah.
So, but I do wonder, as the more books that I write, the more often I do this, if I'll get faster at it.
Yeah. Editing is definitely the thing I'm looking to level up at more than anything else. I've sort of been focusing on my outlines this year, and they are getting better and a bit, if not quicker, then I'm not worrying so much because they're but no, they probably are getting a bit quicker. But it's like a muscle. Once you start doing it, it's easier to do.
Yeah. Well, there's also that thing that 10,000 hours of anything, you become a master at it.
Yeah.
So my husband actually figured that out the other day. He says just over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this urban fantasy that you're writing for this month, do you plan on potentially publishing it sometime later?
What I would love to do is release it as a serial.
Okay. So like Kindle Vella?
Well, Kindle Vella is not available outside.
Oh, that's right. It's not in the UK yet. Yeah.
So I don't know. There are some platforms that people release on for free and then have like a Patreon or a Ko-fi where people can get an early release.
There's another one. Wattpad is one that's free, but there's another one that's free, but you can also, but on that site, you can also do a paywall. I can't remember the name of that.
Royal Road?
Say again?
Royal Road?
No, it's not the one I'm thinking of, but that's another one, I guess.
But yeah, I do have another idea that I want to work on that I'll probably sort of jump over once I finish this draft and leave this in a drawer with my other Nano projects. I've completed Nano successfully twice and never gone back to those manuscripts, which is not a great reference for Nano, but although I did look the one I did in 2020, I have no idea how I'd market it, because it was kind of, I'd say it was in the same genre as Pirates of the Caribbean. So basically urban fantasy, historical. And it was about a lady highwayman who was in a battle with the devil for the souls of her town.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it was really badly written.
I wrote Blood of the Lily, Nano 2020, November. And I wrote Soul of a Rose, the first draft, and I ended up changing a lot of it, was in April of this year. No, last year. I'm on the wrong year, 2021. I wrote it in April, but it gave me so much hard trouble that I was still working on it in the next Nano.
It's it's interesting. Sometimes a book just comes together. Like this book just came, outlined it, wrote it. Everyone said it was wonderful. Then the second one, it's been just not quite there and needs just slight tweaks. And I'm oddly much more comfortable with that.
I've heard that for many authors, the sequel, the second book in a series, is often the hardest.
But it's like it's nothing. Like the worst thing is when someone just goes, it's not quite there, and leaves it at that. Whereas this is sort of more, right, tweak this bit, and you're golden. Yeah, we were. I mean, that's again, it's really difficult to time how long, everything after the first draft takes, because it really depends on what people who read it, how they react to it. And you get people who say they, draft quickly and then spend a week editing it and put it out into the world. And you're like, should you though?
Some people can do it. So, if people can do it, do it. Everybody works differently.
And that's the thing. When people come out and go, oh, Nano, oh, you just write quickly and it's crap. And it's like, probably, but then you fix it. And that's the point.
Yeah. I liken it to, like, if you write slow because you are crafting good sentences, then your editing probably is really quick. So then those who write fast, that's the quick part, but then their editing is not so quick. So it's kind of like, to me, it's the same, comparison. What's the right word? You're still spending the same amount of time possibly on the book.
We write good. We know words.
Yes. I know. I can think of in my head. I'm like, I know this word goes with this, but I don't remember what it is. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. So you can write fast, edit slow, or write slow, edit fast. To me, it's a kind of trade off. That's what I was thinking. It's a trade off there. So
I thought it was write drunk, edit sober.
Yeah. I don't think I would write good drunk. Although people tell me I'm funny when I drink, and I can't write funny, so maybe I should try it.
I used to write a lot of funny stuff, and I've forgotten how. And I have actually written a sitcom that I want to do for a podcast one day, and I'll have to remember how to be funny.
Well, at least you were at some point. I do have people, they'll say, oh, this part was funny in my book or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, it didn't mean to be funny, but that's good that you thought it was funny.
It's easy to be funny on short things, but I don't know how Terry Pratchett manages it.
Yeah.
It's like you need the stakes to be real, but the characters to be funny. Or the characters to be real and the stakes to be funny. But if it's all funny, it doesn't quite work. And if it's not funny, then it doesn't work either.
Lindsay Buroker is really good at putting funny things into her books, like scenes and stuff like that. But it's all building up the character and how they play off each other. It's usually how the characters are playing off each other, which sets up the funny situation.
People have responded really well to a character in my book called Engie.
Yeah.
Which we didn't go into it thinking she was going to be funny. But yeah, I knew going in, you need, like in sci-fi, you need a character who's just there to be like, you humans are really weird. And one of my favorite scenes is when she gets detained and she's an alien and the other aliens detain her and she's like, I want my phone call. And they're like, what are you on about? And she's like, a human thing. It's a human thing.
I like it's further on past that scene when she's going to be rescued. And I don't remember, was it in Franklin's point of view? But I think it was the wife. And she's like, Engie, are you here? She's like, no, I'm not there. Or I'm over here, or whatever it was that she said. And I was like, that's so funny. Because, she took it very literally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there, I'm here.
It's, I think that was a Malcolm line, if I'm being honest. I shouldn't be honest. I should just be like, yes, all glory to me. I said to him once, I said, I've been making this joke about, I'm good at outlining and drafting quickly, and you're good at spelling and I know that might hurt your feelings, so I probably shouldn't do that. And he was like, I don't care what you say, as long as you don't make me go on the streams.
Well, is he going to be coming onto Adrian's channel when we do the author interview, or is it just going to be you? Yeah,
he hasn't decided.
Yeah, I might not be as comfortable with it being live. I was happy that we were able to get both of you guys for our podcast.
He's he doesn't really do any sort of video stuff. He gets a bit anxious.
Yeah. I can understand that.
But it's difficult to know, what helps sort of promote the book and what's just, a distraction. But I think there's definitely, like, with the community and the networking, I think that does help you build a foundation to sort of go a bit further, because it gets you that sort of first wave of reviews and what have you.
Well, and too, like, I went to the Women in Publishing conference earlier this year, and a lady there saw that a bunch of us were fantasy writers, and she reached out to all of us. She's like, hey, I'm going to start a fantasy group and we'll meet monthly. And I joined, and, that network. And now in conjunction with her, we're putting together an author promo to build our newsletters. So I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't got out of my comfort zone to go to things.
Yeah. And when's the 20 Books conference? Is that next week?
3 weeks from now. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm leaving on, what day am I leaving on? I think I don't remember. I do not have the best memory. Yeah, 3 weeks from now. I'm leaving next weekend because I'm going to my girlfriend's house and then we're driving together. But it starts on the 14th, which is a Monday.
I've only just got through all the videos from last year that I wanted to watch.
Oh, yeah. There are way more videos I want to watch than time I have.
Yeah. I've been going through the bookmark of the AWC as well, and been like, yes, I need to watch that, and I need to catch up with that.
Yeah, there were a lot of good ones, and with me being an organizer, I didn't always get to just stay in one. I had to go back and forth between different ones. And I was like, I want to see the rest of that, and I still have not gone back and seen the rest of the ones I really wanted to see. So,
and now you're organizing more.
I am. But it's probably going to be fewer presentations. I think that's what we're heading toward, because Margaret thinks that would be better, and overall for planning it's better for me. So but from a consumer perspective, from those who are attending as participants, you think that it's better that if there were just fewer videos to have to choose from every hour? Yeah. Okay.
It's good if it's like you can just sort of pick the ones that you want to focus on and not have to, especially live. Yeah, if there's like 2 streams, that gets a bit, then you have to make a choice. And then you make it back to television.
Yeah. Well, we had 4 streams going at one time for every hour, unless it was the special guest speakers or the speakers. And she was like, let's cut it down to 3. And I'm like, I don't like odd numbers. So I don't know. I think if we cut it down, we should go to 2. And she thinks we should do 3. And I said to her, I was like, you know what? I would consider it depending on what submissions we get.
Yeah.
So the way I think of it is that I would like to see clear, like, specific topics so I have a clear reason for making different, streams. So like, last AWC, we had 2 go each hour for publishing and track. The tracks is publishing and writing. So I don't know what a 3rd stream could be called.
But you could do one on promotion, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. If something like clearly jumps out at us is like a bunch of people are doing this one thing, we can make it a track. And, that way we have 3 tracks or whatever. So, but if it's all over the place, I think we'll just go back to 1 track for writing, 1 track for publishing.
Yeah. That's a good plan.
Yeah, which means 2 streams, and she wants 3. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, shall we go for one last stream?
Let's do it.
And that's time.
I did not get as much done that time because Loki, you can't see him, but he's in my lap. He decided that he needed to have my attention.
I've just discovered something brilliant. If you create a new scene in Scrivener and you don't give it a title, it just selects the first line, which is really useful if you're not doing everything by different POV characters and, like me, freeze up when you have no idea what to put there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's similar to what Word does.
Mm.
If you don't give it a title, it just like chooses the first like 4 or 5 words or something like that.
I got 658 words before running out of my planned scenes and getting distracted by the chat.
Oh. Yeah, there was quite a lot that happened in the chat.
Yeah, we got Aphrodite Lee is here. Just Eva popped in to say hi. And we are very grateful for everyone. Easy Graphics is back with us. How about those thumbnails? Those are some pretty easy graphics. My wife said I used too much negative space, but I said I did that on purpose.
On your thumbnail?
Yes.
I think it makes it look clean.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I spent Sunday, I was just like, I haven't done Photoshop in ages. Let's just do the basics of Photoshop and just do it all by hand. Should have just grabbed a template, but there we are. Yeah, so far today, I have blown my all-time record out of the water. I'm not quite at 5K. I am at 4,661, so almost there.
Yeah, I think another 20-minute sprint and you would definitely have it probably. Oh, but you said you're out of scene, so you have to kind of figure out what you're going to do next.
Yeah, like what I do, there is a book I read a couple of years back called Writing the Television Drama by Pamela Douglas, which you can probably work out what that's about. But it talks about how in television, everything's done by the commercial breaks. Just to be humble. Thank you, Andy. And so it was written, the edition I have was from about 2006 or so, and maybe 2008. And at that point, a lot of shows were doing 6-act episodes, where you'd sort of have 2 longer acts and then there'd be more ads as the show went on. Whereas now it's sort of slowed down to being 4 or 5 acts, but you'll probably have 10 minutes, then the titles, and then 10-minute acts or 15-minute acts. But they broke down how many scenes ended up being in an act and how you would plan a TV episode in that structure. And I just sort of went, aha. And as I was saying, this one I was planning to be serialized. So that sort of story cliffhanger would work.
Yeah.
So I adapted that basically.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Do you mind if I plug something real quick?
Of course.
Yeah. So AuthorTube Secret Santa of this year is closing after today. So looking for
not that. You can't plug that.
So here's the link in the chat to sign up. It doesn't seem to be as popular as last year. So last year, I think we had 20 people or so sign up. And this year, I think it was at 12 a few days ago. So I don't know what's at. I don't know if me plugging it elsewhere has helped. But I think, probably people are in the position where, with the economy and everything like that, maybe it's not the right thing, the right timing for it. But this will probably be the last year I do it.
Yeah, I hope people get in on that. It's a nice thing to do, sort of builds a community.
Yeah.
And you get to do dress-up videos, which we're all keen on.
Well, yeah, because I completely screwed up my Secret Santa. We just had like so many boxes come in and, not all for me, but from family and stuff like that. So I was just opening boxes up and wrapping them or whatever it was I needed to do. And I saw that. And I remember thinking I wanted that book because I got Blood Like Magic from Lizelle Samberry from my Secret Santa. And I remember I put that on my wish list and I thought, oh, I must have got it. I didn't remember getting it, but
I was going through my shelf the other day and I found there's this book I've been wanting to pick up, and it's a sort of a book about these cheeky protesters that would like project things onto the side of Westminster and stuff, and what have you. And I've been wanting to pick up their book, and I was just looking over my shelf and I'm like, wait, when did I get that? And my wife was like, I got that for your birthday. I'm like, oh, thank you. Why don't I remember this? You don't remember that? Of course I remember that. Thank you so much.
Aphrodite, I put the link in the chat. It's a form to fill out. Yeah, but it was fun dressing up as Barrett to do that part. And at first I did it and I thought, oh no. I was like, what if he takes this the wrong way? Like he's like, I can't believe you did that about me. So I contacted, I was like, hey Barrett, I kind of did a spoof on you. I was like, I want to make sure that you're okay with it. And I sent him the video and he was like, yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is good to check. I've been caught out before now being too cheeky. Richard said I doxed him because I said what town he lived in. I'm pretty sure they can't find you just from the town. But he does tend to wind people up, so it's probably best he doesn't announce where he lives.
Yeah. I think y'all get along pretty well over there in the UK.
Well, you'd think. That's just how we like to present ourselves.
Well, I saw the video of you guys together. You guys did something. It's been a minute.
We went to Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds in London in April.
Oh, okay.
Which was brilliant. Doxed is when someone puts your personal information on the internet. Because Aphrodite was asking in the chat. Yeah. Because we'd I met Richard because we did a film project together that he'd written, which was a Doctor Who fan film, and he got me to do some effects. And I was a bit like, "You're a writer? I'm a writer," and it all spiraled from there. Spiraled. Me speak good. Buy my books.
I'm the same way, especially being partially tone deaf. I know I don't say all the words right, or I don't fill out the rest of the pronunciation.
But, I'm so hyped for Nano. It's like it feels so good to be writing again, and it is crazy. Like when you do have the whole day, but you can just sit down and do some sprints. How I don't want to say effortless, but more effortless than usual.
Yeah.
I should just be subsidized to stay home and write until book sales.
That would be nice. Very nice.
Oh well, until that day happens. I did get to write the Frankenstein scene. That was fun.
Yay.
But yeah, I ran out of beats, and I figured it was best to stop when my character started talking to an egg.
So that's your discovery writing. You start putting odd things in.
Yeah. I wrote this podcast sitcom, and one of the bits where a similar thing had happened, where I was doing a sprint and I'd ran out of notes, and the characters just started talking to each other, and people were like, "Oh, that's the best bit." I'm like, that was planned from the start.
See, maybe you're a discovery writer at heart. No.
I don't think so. The thing with me is that moment when you have no idea what to write next and you just freeze up is the worst feeling in the world. So I try and have all the notes and do shorter sprints, and then that never happens. And this time I'm pushing myself, and I'm going for 20-minute sprints and trying to get more words down. And if that happens, just pushing through it so I can grow as a writer and do 4,000 words every day. Hooray.
Well, and I find that for me, like if I get to a point where I don't know what happens next, but I know what's going to happen you know, in the future, I'll just write, like I write to myself. I'm like, this is what I think might happen here, but I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. These are the consequences. And then just skip down to the next scene and start writing.
Anyway, this has been day 1 of NaNoWriMo writing sprints. I won't be doing this every day in the month, but I will be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern time at 10 o'clock GMT, which is the same time. And I will be with Orpha and Sophie.
Yay.
And Shannon, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. So nice to hang out with you again. And you'll be putting your latest podcast up shortly, I believe.
Yeah, about an hour. So, and then I have sprints later today at 4 p.m. Central. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern. And 10 p.m. for you, I think.
And I will be joining you on Tuesday for more sprints as well on your channel.
Next Tuesday. Yeah, we're Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. I lose track of the days. So yes, 1 week from today, you will be on with me. And I am running sprints nearly every day in Nano, other than just the 1 week I'm going to be gone to a conference.
Cool. And thank you everyone who has joined us. It's been amazing. Cheers.